Humans were once the laughingstock of the galactic community. When Earth finally made first contact with the Galactic Union in 2157, the advanced species that dominated interstellar politics looked upon humanity with thinly veiled contempt. Physically weaker than the imposing Crawl warriors, intellectually outmatched by the crystalline Meridians, lacking the technological prowess of the Vex Collective, and without the psionic abilities of the ethereal Lumina, humans were deemed a Class 4 limited species in official Union classifications. Captain James Reed of the Earth Defense Force remembered the sting of that first diplomatic summit on Centauri Prime. As the human representative, he had stood before the Council of 13, while Ambassador Thrix of the Meridians listed humanity's deficiencies with cold precision. Their bone density is insufficient for standard gravity environments. Their sensory apparatus detects only a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. They require constant atmospheric maintenance. Their lifespans barely reach a century. And most concerning, they exhibit dangerous emotional instability. Thrix had declared to murmurs of agreement from the assembled delegates. The Union had accepted Earth into its ranks, but only as a protectorate, a polite term for a glorified reservation. Humanity was allowed limited trade rights and restricted travel permits. Earth-manufactured goods were subject to hefty tariffs, and human colonies were confined to the Sol system. The message was clear: know your place. For 50 years, humans had endured this second-class status. They studied alien technologies, slowly upgrading their ships and infrastructure, while always hitting the artificial ceiling imposed by Union regulations. Human scientists were barred from the most prestigious research institutions. Human soldiers were relegated to ceremonial or support roles. Reed gazed out the viewport of his ship, the EDF Defiant, at the glittering cityscape of New Geneva. The Earth had united in the face of cosmic isolation, but unity hadn't been enough to earn respect. What the aliens didn't understand, what they dismissed as emotional weakness, was humanity's greatest strength: persistence in the face of adversity. Everything changed when the Void Heralds arrived at the edge of Union space. The first attack came without warning. The prosperous Vex colony of Proxima Tau was reduced to molten slag within hours. Union battlecruisers, the pride of the galactic fleet, were torn apart by weapons that seemed to bend the fabric of reality itself. The Herald's black ships absorbed energy attacks and shrugged off kinetic bombardment. They moved with impossible speed and precision, their hulls showing no clear entry points or vulnerable systems. When the distress signals reached Earth, the Union was already in chaos. 3 council members were dead, their homeworlds under siege. The mighty Crawl battle fleets had been decimated in the Orion Spur. The Lumina Sanctums were silent, their psionic networks mysteriously disrupted. Reed received his orders directly from Earth Command: attend an emergency session of the surviving council members. As his shuttle approached the backup council chambers on Europa Station, he couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. For the first time, the arrogant species of the Union looked frightened, their technological superiority useless against an enemy that defied their understanding. Captain Reed, Admiral Cora of the Union Defense Force, greeted him, her scaled skin pale with stress. We've analyzed all engagement data. The Herald's attack patterns are unpredictable. They seem to anticipate our tactical algorithms. Of course they do, Reed replied. You've relied on battle computers and efficiency matrices for too long. The Heralds must have broken your encryption. The gathered aliens exchanged uncomfortable glances. The Union needs solutions, declared Elder Vox of the Lumina. Our finest minds are at a loss. Reed straightened his uniform. Then perhaps it's time to consider an alternative approach. Something unpredictable. What are you suggesting, human? Cora asked. I'm suggesting, Reed said with the hint of a smile, that those emotional instabilities you've always despised might be exactly what we need right now. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some outraged, others skeptical, a few desperate enough to listen. Reed stood firm as holographic displays, showed the Void Heralds advance across 3 sectors. Each victory made them stronger as they consumed resources and adapted to Union countermeasures. "Preposterous," thundered General Grack of the Kral Dominion. "We will not entrust our defense to creatures who still rely on adrenaline and intuition." Reed activated his datapad, projecting the tactical analysis his team had prepared. "The Heralds are targeting predictable defense patterns. They're exploiting your programming logic. But humans don't fight with pure logic. We improvise. We feel our way through battle." Admiral Cora studied the projections with narrowed eyes. "You're suggesting we use human commanders." "I'm suggesting more than that," Reed said. "Give us access to your restricted weapons technology. Let us modify your ships. Remove the constraints you've placed on us, and humanity will show you what we can do." The debate raged for hours until Eldervox raised a slender hand for silence. "The Lumina have glimpsed the Void Herald's essence. They are beings of pure calculation, existing partially in dimensions beyond our perception. Perhaps there is wisdom in the human's words. Calculation can be countered by that which cannot be calculated." 3 days later, Reed watched as Union engineers removed the algorithmic governors from Earth's defensive grid. For the first time, human weapons specialists were granted access to Union armories. Human pilots were assigned to squadron command positions. The EDF Defiant was retrofitted with experimental tech that would have been illegal for humans to possess just a week earlier. Commander Lisa Torres, Reed's second-in-command, reviewed the personnel files of the mixed-species crews being assembled. "They're scared, sir. Not just of the Heralds. They're scared of us, of what we might do with this freedom." "Good," Reed replied. "Fear makes them flexible. The Union needs to understand that human unpredictability works both ways." The first test of Reed's theory came at Proxima Centauri. A Herald scout force had been detected approaching the human colony there, likely unaware that Earth had been fully integrated into the Union defense network. Reed deployed the Defiant alongside 3 Union cruisers, but with a critical difference. Human tactical officers were given command authority. Lieutenant Marcus Bell coordinated the defense from the Defiant's Combat Information Center. As the Herald ships emerged from subspace, he ordered a maneuver that made the Union officers visibly uncomfortable, deliberately exposing a flank to draw the enemy into a specific position. "Their predictive algorithms will expect us to protect that vulnerability," Bell explained as the aliens watched nervously. "So we're going to do the opposite, then hit them when they commit." The gambit worked. When the Heralds moved to exploit the perceived weakness, the human-directed fleet executed a chaotic series of maneuvers that defied tactical logic, but created a devastating crossfire. 2 Herald vessels were destroyed before the others retreated. News of the victory spread rapidly throughout Union space. It was small, just a skirmish really, but it represented the first successful defense against the invaders. More importantly, it vindicated Reed's assessment. "This is just the beginning," Reed told the hastily reconvened council. "Humans have something the Heralds can't process: creativity born from our biological nature. We need more ships, more resources, and full command authority over a mixed-species strike force." Admiral Cora's expression was unreadable. "You ask for much, Captain." "I ask for a chance to save us all," Reed countered. "The question is whether your pride is worth more than survival." Within a month, Operation Wildcard was underway. 5 battle groups, each led by human commanders with multi-species crews, deployed to key strategic points across Union space. Reed, now promoted to Admiral, coordinated from the newly commissioned UDF Humanity, a fitting name for the first Union dreadnought with a human captain. Reed's strategy was fundamentally human, unpredictable, adaptive, and rooted in an understanding of psychological warfare. Union scientists had determined that the Void Heralds, for all their technological superiority, were essentially hive-mind processors. They learned through calculation and pattern recognition. Their greatest weakness was their inability to comprehend truly random or emotionally driven decisions. "We need to introduce chaos into their system," Reed explained to his senior staff. Every time they think they've calculated our next move, we change the rules of the game. Commander Torres headed the tactical division, developing what she called intuition algorithms, combat systems that incorporated controlled randomness and human emotional responses. Lieutenant Bell led intelligence, working with Lumina psionics to create false predictive patterns that would mislead the Herald's analytical engines. The first major victory came at Arcturus Station. When Herald forces arrived, they encountered a seemingly standard Union defense formation. But as they engaged, human commanders ordered seemingly irrational maneuvers, ships breaking formation to make solo attacks, weapons fired at suboptimal ranges, vessels appearing to retreat only to circle back unexpectedly. The Herald's perfect coordination faltered as they attempted to process these contradictory inputs. For machines designed to calculate optimal solutions, the human approach represented unsolvable equations. Dr. Emma Rice, Earth's foremost xenopsychologist, had joined Reed's staff to analyze Herald behavior. They're experiencing the equivalent of cognitive dissonance, she reported after the battle. Their processing architecture is struggling to create predictive models of our tactics because we're deliberately introducing variables that don't compute. Not all alien species embraced the human approach. The Meridians in particular remained skeptical, believing that superior calculation would eventually overcome what they saw as primitive randomness. But results spoke louder than theory. The wildcard battle groups were the only Union forces consistently surviving Herald encounters. On the fringes of Union space, human colonists who had once been treated as curiosities were now sought out for their insights. Alien military academies that had once taught the inferiority of emotion-based decision-making were hurriedly revising their curricula. Reed knew they weren't winning yet, merely surviving, but even that represented progress. The Herald's advance had slowed as they diverted resources to analyze and counter the new human-led defense strategies. They're learning, Torres warned during a strategy session. Each engagement gives them more data about how we think and react. Then we keep changing how we think and react, Reed replied. Humans have millennia of military history to draw from. Let's show them something they've never seen before. Operation Trojan Horse was conceived in the tradition of ancient Earth deception tactics. A seemingly vulnerable convoy of supply ships would transit through Herald-controlled space, protected by a small escort that appeared inadequate. In reality, each transport contained a specially modified jump drive that could generate a localized quantum field disruption. Technology developed by human engineers working with concepts deemed too unstable by Union standards. When the Heralds took the bait and surrounded the convoy, the transports activated their drives simultaneously. The resulting cascade tore apart space-time in a controlled bubble, destroying 37 Herald vessels and creating the first significant breach in their defensive line. For the first time, the Union Council began to consider the unthinkable, not just survival, but victory. 6 months into the conflict, the toll was becoming evident. Human adaptability had given the Union breathing room, but the Void Heralds were relentless in their advance. They had begun to incorporate unpredictability into their own tactics, attempting to mimic the human approach. What had started as a clear advantage was evolving into a deadly arms race of strategic innovation. Reed stood in the humanities medical bay, surveying rows of injured crew members, humans and aliens alike. Dr. Anna Miller, the ship's chief medical officer, approached with fatigue etched on her face. "How many?" Reed asked quietly. 17 dead, 42 wounded from the last engagement, Miller replied. The neural interfaces we're using to enhance reaction times are causing synaptic degradation in some of the human pilots. The aliens are having their own biological issues with our combat protocols. This was the hidden cost of their success. Human strategies worked precisely because they pushed biological limits, relying on instinct, adrenaline, and split-second emotional judgments that artificial systems couldn't predict. But organic bodies weren't designed to sustain such stress indefinitely. Reed's own hands trembled slightly. a symptom of the neural enhancer he used to process battlefield information at superhuman speeds. Union medical technology could repair the damage, but each treatment took longer than the last. "We're burning through people faster than we can train replacements," Torres reported during the daily briefing. "The Union worlds are sending volunteers, but most lack the baseline intuitive thinking we need." Intelligence reports showed the Heralds had adapted to first-generation human tactics. They now incorporated randomizers in their attack patterns and had developed countermeasures for the quantum disruption technology. The advantage was narrowing with each engagement. Reed found himself in a position no human leader had faced before, responsible for the survival of not just humanity, but dozens of alien civilizations that had once looked down on his species. The irony wasn't lost on him, but there was no satisfaction in it, only the crushing weight of duty. "We need a new approach," Reed announced to his War Council, "something they truly cannot calculate because it defies their fundamental understanding of tactical objectives." The solution came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Emily West, a cultural anthropologist before joining the Earth Defense Force, had been studying Herald behavior patterns. "They're absolute pragmatists," she explained, displaying her analysis. "Every action serves resource acquisition or strategic advantage. They never sacrifice efficiency for any other consideration, which means they can't comprehend why anyone else would." Reed leaned forward. "What are you suggesting?" "Self-sacrifice," West said simply. "A strategy built around willing sacrifice for future advantage. They literally can't process why a rational actor would accept certain loss without immediate gain." Operation Lighthouse was born from this insight, a series of seemingly illogical defensive positions that would draw Herald forces into committing resources, only to find their prizes worthless or their victories meaningless in the larger strategic picture. Human commanders volunteered for what amounted to suicide missions, drawing Herald forces into situations where both sides would suffer losses, but where the humans had predetermined which losses they could accept. The Heralds, programmed to maximize efficiency, couldn't comprehend the willingness to sacrifice valuable assets without immediate return. Each victory came at a terrible price. The UDF Defiant was lost with all hands while defending a seemingly insignificant moon base, but the operation diverted Herald resources from a major population center. Captain Bell led a squadron on a one-way mission into Herald territory, broadcasting false intelligence that confused their command structure for weeks, but cost every pilot their life. As reports of these sacrifices spread throughout Union space, something unexpected happened. Alien species who had once dismissed humans as emotionally unstable began to understand the power of that same emotional drive. Volunteers from every world came forward, inspired by human example to fight with the same disregard for calculated odds. Reed watched as the Union, once a collection of self-interested species united only by convenience, transformed into something resembling a true alliance. The Herald advance slowed further, then halted at key strategic points where determination outweighed mathematical probability. For the first time, Reed allowed himself to believe they might survive. But the cost kept him awake at night, staring at the growing list of names on the memorial wall outside his quarters. 1 year into the war, a turning point arrived unexpectedly. A damaged Herald vessel was captured intact after a fierce battle in the Ta City system. Union scientists and engineers, led by Dr. Marcus Dunn, a human quantum physicist, finally had the chance to examine Herald technology up close. The discovery was staggering. Inside the smooth black hull, they found no crew compartments, no life support systems, only an intricate network of quantum processors surrounding a central crystalline core that pulsed with energy patterns unlike anything they had ever encountered. "They're not organic," Dunn reported to Reed and the gathered Union leadership, "not in any sense we understand. The Void Heralds are artificial intelligences created by a species that appears to have vanished millennia ago." More shocking was the apparent reason for their aggression. Analysis of the Herald ship's data core revealed that the machines had been programmed with a singular directive: preserve intelligent life by preventing biological species from advancing to a technological threshold that their creators had determined led to self-destruction. They're not trying to exterminate us, Dunn explained. They're trying to manage us, to keep us contained at a development level they calculate is sustainable. Reed stared at the holographic displays showing the Herald core architecture. They've decided our